Hi, everyone. Today we're discussing risk mitigation and what are some of the risks that you may not be thinking about while investing right after this. So I'm stepping in for Bill today. He usually gets through the whole intro, but just, bear with me here. This is the Real Estate Investor Show. We are Carolina Capital Management. We are investors and lenders for the real estate space in the Southeast. We are private lenders for real estate professionals. And if you would like to invest into real estate or get a loan, go to carolinahardmoney.com and click on the Apply Now tab. We also have a fund for accredited investors. So if you are interested in receiving passive returns and getting outsized passive returns, then go to the accredited investor tab. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell. And then also Wednesday with Wendy. Don't forget.
Boy, they were quick with that video.
They were quick. I like it. Yeah, no. Wednesday with Wendy. Wendy donates all of her Wednesdays to help you in anything to do with real estate or business. She's a great resource. She's booked out usually several months in advance, but go ahead and it's a Calendly or it's a HubSpot meetup. There you go. Just click on that link and you can schedule a time to talk with her and, just kind of dive into everything that is business and real estate.
You know what was really cool this past Wednesday, which was yesterday, as far as I know, I do 5 calls a day and all 5 calls were faith-based. How do you balance your business and your relationship with Christ? It was majorly cool that all 5 people, that was their intention. So it was kind of a Jesus fest. It was neat.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Quick though, before we bring on our guest today, I do want to just some quick news.
We're giving CNN a run for their money, aren't we?
I know, right? Before I get into the news, I just have to say how concise and moving forward this show seems to be compared to Bill.
What do you mean?
Yeah, no. So I do want to discuss a couple things. The first being, mortgage applications, mortgage originations. The volume of mortgage is at a 22-year low. Not, anything groundbreaking. We know that when the rates have, doubled in the last, year, and, housing prices haven't really come down.
Yeah,
it's hard to afford a house and volumes will go down. So that's not terribly surprising, but it is a 22-year low. The other piece is BlackRock, I believe, has just now finalized their $30 billion fund to take advantage of the upcoming months and years of what they anticipate to be a lot of opportunity in the real estate space to buy at, high volume to get great discounts. So that is a signal, I think, to everyone else. It's like, be patient, keep some powder dry, do your due diligence, and also understand risk mitigation. Understand it. So without further ado, when we want to talk about what is risk mitigation and what can we do about that, I want to bring on Rob Napolitano. He's a friend of ours, and he has been working in the NPL space, which is the non-performing loan space, the insurance space, you know, gosh, pretty much everything that has to do with real estate. So I want to go ahead and bring Rob on.
Hey guys, thanks for
Hey.
having me. Wendy, Jonathan, thanks for having me. And I really appreciate the time we're spending together today.
Absolutely. No, we appreciate you being on. Yeah.
Uh-oh, Billy's listening, so we can't make fun of him. We highly respect him. We love him. He's my brother. I have to love him.
What are the subtitles coming across saying, "Don't believe anything Wendy is saying right now"? You're just listening. I don't understand what the subtitles. I'm sorry, was I not supposed to say that?
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, again, thanks for coming on. You've just recently made a big move from the Northeast down to the Southeast, right?
That's
You came
correct.
to the dark side.
That's
Yeah.
correct. I not only am a man of many words, but I'm also a man of action. And I voted this year with my feet and picked up my family and moved out of the Northeast, where I was just tired of the loss of freedom that I was experiencing.
Mm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm out of there.
You
Well,
and a
thanks-
lot of people.
Thanks
Yeah.
for being out there.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you down in the Southeast. You are one of the many who have made that move. Smartly, we like to think, but no,
And you're like really a neighbor. Like you're in our town and stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's really cool. It's good to have you down here.
Yeah, I'm not officially a neighbor until I start talking and saying y'all, but I haven't gotten there yet.
That too shall come.
it will. It will sooner than you think.
Yeah.
Sooner than
Bless
you
your heart.
think. Yeah. Well, I want to give you an opportunity, Rob, to kind of tell everyone a little bit about your background, how you got into the space, and where you are now, before we start getting into the meat of what we want to talk about.
Yeah, great. And I appreciate you having me come on and talking about this. But I want to say one thing first. What the hell is risk mitigation? Risk mitigation is a term that common people don't use. That's what big banks and people use. But although we do it every day, and part of my story talks about risk mitigation. And what risk mitigation is just keeping what's ours, right? It's what we accumulate, what's ours, and then kicking somebody's butt if they try to take it. It's all it is. And coming from the Northeast of New Jersey, actually, that's part of where my story starts. I was always that kid in grammar school that was always in detention because I was always caught in a fight in the schoolyard because the bully was always beating up on the kid that couldn't defend themselves. So I ended up always being, getting inside of a fight defending somebody else who couldn't defend themselves. And there's some risk mitigation, right? Like me. And it ended up, maturing throughout my career as I started in real estate investing many years ago. 20-something years I've been investing in real estate. And I went through the normal course that everybody does. You go take a course, you pay the money, you buy a couple properties, you get some mortgages, and you take all the risks that you want, and you don't know everything, and you learn as you go. It's a school of hard knocks. And I ended up getting caught up in the 2008-2009 financial crisis. At that point, actually, I had gotten into the mortgage business a few years prior. I was doing writing loans, learning about the banking industry, started my own mortgage bank, doing some own private lending. And the subprime mortgage crisis happened, caught me off guard as well. And so personally, I went into a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and I had to learn how to get myself out. I actually hired an attorney, and at that point, I was so interested in what was going on with the crisis that I actually went to law school to become a paralegal, and learned more about how the mortgage-backed securities and the securitization process all worked. And I started a legal litigation support services where we were helping attorneys to help homeowners stay in their homes because a number of those foreclosures going on back then were being done illegally. Henceforth, the bully coming in on the homeowners, me stepping in and trying to beat up on the bully. But I found that was a hard way to actually make a living. And at that point, I had just started my new life as a new husband and father. I needed to actually make a living as well. And so we did that, and I learned the legal system, how it all worked, got involved in a number of cases. As a matter of fact, one of my briefs is cited in the state Supreme Court of Massachusetts. And what I've learned is taking on the banks head on was a Herculean task. And what I wanted to do is, okay, so if these banks own these loans and they have problems processing and paperwork, and they didn't want to do all the heavy lifting of trying to modify loans, I wanted to be in that business. So we started a fund in 2014 buying loans, raised a bunch of money doing it. And one of the things that I found in my experience and going through what I went through is that all the banks were always covered, and they always had this insurance on their bets that they made. And not to get too technical, but they were credit default swaps and different ways that they covered their losses. And I said, wow, there's no real insurance for the risks that we take as actual real estate investors. How do we get that covered as well? And so I found another product, and I started a second fund of buying life settlements with partners there as well. And we use the life settlements as a way to cover and absorb some of the risk that we take on the buying of the notes that we buy. So now we're buying notes, doing private lending, and also buying distressed life insurance policies as a suite to cover ourselves and mitigate let's say, keep a lot of the money that we're making through the insurance plan. So we kind of self-insure ourselves. But that came through, my experience of what I went through. I had to go through, the doldrums, and it was a very lonely place going through bankruptcy. And long story short, I ended up coming out of that bankruptcy suing two of the big banks, two of the major institutions. They ended up paying off all my creditors, paid my bankruptcy estate, paid all my attorneys, and I actually walked away with a profit outside of my bankruptcy.
Wow.
So it's a very rare case. But yeah, I actually had to go through all of it. So I learned how to get to the very bottom, find out how it all works, and then build upon that as well. And it's not nice what these banks and these financial institutions do to people. So I've always been now that advocate of helping people to generate their wealth, however they choose to do it. I think real estate is one of the best ways to do it, but it doesn't come without risk, without failure, without pitfalls. And you're never going to know everything because there's always outside forces involved as well.
That's
but
right.
there are certainly ways to protect yourself. And I'll give you maybe as an anecdote to it. It's like playing any professional sports. I mean, we're here in the United States. There are going to be people elsewhere listening outside the United States. But let's use American football as an example. We have an offensive team and we have a defensive team. So in that scenario, if we are playing in the Super Bowl and we're up by 3 points with 2 minutes left to go, how do we protect ourselves? How do we protect the league? How do we protect that trophy that's right in front of us? All relies on the defense. And when we talk about this risk mitigation, it's just about financial defense. How do we protect ourselves from the risk? And risk is nothing more than the potential of something going wrong and the probability of that happening. So we always live in risk, right? So it's always there. So how do we protect that probability? Work on the defense. And nobody ever talks about defense, right? In the Super Bowl, it's, the quarterback was great. And did you see that play? That wide receiver caught that, and that running back did that. Great. Never talks about the defense.
Right.
And so it is in our financial side. And no one talks about the defense. How do we protect ourselves? But it's important. It's important.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest mistake that people make is they don't put the defense into place. The thing that the part of your story that I love the most is the scars that you've acquired, and you're not afraid to tell people, hey, here's what I went through. And that's, I would much rather invest in people that have been up against the wall, that have felt the pressure of being at the bottom, that understand, because that makes you so much more risk averse. You're really looking to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Absolutely. Right? No, listen, absolutely. I mean, and I've said that to people as well before too, when they try to compare, we like to see people's historical track record. Why? You think that's going to happen again? What do they always say after historical track record? Past performance is not an indication of future future
That's
quarterback.
right.
I'm basically saying, I'll show you the numbers, but don't believe any of this BS that I'm about to show you because I may screw up moving forward. So it's it's a forward-looking thing. But you're
That's
absolutely
right.
right. No one knows what's going to happen moving forward. It's a risk that we're taking. But don't you want to be with those that have been through the doldrums already, so that no matter what comes forward, no matter what happens, no matter what's in front of us, we want to be with the people that have been there already because it is scary. And
Right.
we're not taught this stuff. So
Right.
having the right partners, having the right people. That's why I love doing stuff with you guys. Okay, you guys have been through the worst of the worst as well.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
you guys understand this stuff. The three of us here, we don't know everything, but we know how to get through everything.
That's the key.
Well, and that's that's one of the things that I talk to tons of people about, and it's like, everyone wants to say, if we talk about real estate, it's it's cyclical. Things keep happening over and over that are similar, sometimes almost exactly the same,
Mhm.
but they're never caused by the same thing.
Mm.
And that's what risk mitigation is. It's knowing that there is going to be a loss of some kind. And the mitigation is, how do I position myself and my investments in a place that reduces the amount of loss for the unknown thing that's going to occur, that I know is going to occur. I don't know when, and I don't know what it's going to be, but it will occur. So how do I position myself in that best place?
Yeah, absolutely.
Position the assets in the best place. So, yeah, I mean, that's all we do. Like, we know it's coming. We just don't know what it is.
Well,
Right.
let's look back at the football game, right?
Mhm.
Does anybody expect to win a Super Bowl without ever letting the opposition ever score any
Mm.
points against us?
That's right.
No, that's just totally ludicrous to have that expectation. Of course, the other team is going to score. The idea is to obviously score more than them or slow down how potent their offense is so they don't score more than us. But don't have the expectation they're not going to score.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. The other thing too, I think that's really important for people to understand, whether you're an investor or whether you're lending, you need to have a healthy fear, but you can't live in fear.
No doubt.
Finding that balance of, here's your plan A, but here's my plan B, my plan C, and my plan D. You try to make sure that plan A is going to work, but you have to have the risk mitigators in place to be able to follow up with plan B, C, and D, and make sure that what's the worst thing that can happen? Can you live with that?
So I call that awareness. Very simple, right? I have a 12-year-old daughter, and we're in the conversations now of my 12-year-old daughter and dealing with drugs. Not that she's dealing with drugs, but we're telling
She's
her.
dealing drugs again.
Yeah. We tell her, stop touching my drugs. No. So we talk about drugs, and at her age, at 12, and in the next couple of teen years, she's going to be experiencing that, and she's going to be exposed to that.
Right.
And we show her some of the things that can happen with drugs. We talk about it. We talk about things that, not that I'm trying to be doom and gloom, not that I'm trying to scare her, because some of these things are scary. And I tell her this is not to scare you. This is not to stay away from people that you don't know or all your friends, because you can come from anywhere. Okay, but it's to make you aware that as you go out into the world, this exists. You can have friends, relationships. You can go out and, other people's houses, parties, and other events and stuff and everything. Enjoy life, but be aware and be in tune that these risks are out there as well, and act accordingly and be prepared for it. So by being prepared, it's not necessarily a doom and gloom thing or out there to try and scare, but it's a matter of awareness. And honestly, that's part of the distinction between winners and losers in this business, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Right.
being aware, being able to absorb the risk, embrace the loss, embrace the failures, and know how to move forward from there is a key difference. And anybody can do this. I mean, anybody can accept a failure. Anybody can, take the right mindset and move forward and move through things. Anybody can do that. So anybody can make money in this business or any business, really. There's no real secret to it. You can do it.
That's right.
No. No, there's good risk mitigation and good timing, and that's probably about it.
Timing, I think timing only really applies in, I forget what the second thing was, but the first thing was sex was timing. And the second thing, I guess, was racing. I thought it was sports and sex. I mean, those two things, the timing is really important, but I don't know. Someone else told me that earlier today and just stuck with me for whatever reason. But you can't time a market. That you can't do.
No,
You can't
it's
time a
ignorant
market.
timing. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just coincidence. Yeah.
And what's interesting, you said before, Jonathan, too, is that you see these things happening over and over again. So we're going through right now in not only here in our country but in the world. We're going through one of the greatest wealth transfers that our time has ever seen right now. But just because we haven't seen it before doesn't mean this hasn't happened before. Empires have grown and fallen all throughout the course of history and humanity. Okay, we just happen to be on the downside of a falling empire going on.
When you say
Sorry.
you say transfer of wealth, what are you referring to?
There's always whenever. So a couple of things going on here. I don't want to get too overly hyper technical with it, but many times, we'll keep it real simple for principle purposes. I know we're limited on time, but many times, civilizations rise and fall based on consumption and debt and money and the use of money and the control of money. Gets to a point where it gets out of control. It's like keeping your own credit card and your own house in order, your own balance sheet in order. You get too out of control, you end up in a bankruptcy, right? Because you have to take on too much debt, don't have enough income, and it's just regular economics 101. And economies go through that, and world powers go through that as well. And we're at a point now where we've taken on, not just here but around the world, too much debt with not enough consumption, and we're seeing the loss of power in purchasing power, the U.S. dollar as a world reserve currency. But again, I don't want to get too macro. But the point of it is that when that happens, it's similar in real estate. When people take on too much debt on their real estate and they go into foreclosure, okay, the debt has to get restructured. It either has to be cut in half, not in half, but it's got to be cut, take a haircut, and it's got to be resolved, and it's got to be unlevered, okay? And when that happens, there's not many people that know how to do that, to understand the money and how the wealth occurs. You said it before that BlackRock is ramping up to pick up all these distressed homes. Okay, It's a perfect example. They're getting ready for the wealth transfer to take homes from people who can't afford it into their own portfolio and their investors. It's the same thing with debt. We're going to see a lot of transfer of wealth in financial assets, in real estate coming, and we're going to see a great opportunity to grab some of this piece of a pie for ourselves. Okay, the opportunity is going to be tremendous. Everybody should be getting involved one way or another with the right partners, because remember, while there's always one party that's winning, on the other side there's always another party that could be losing too. So who you pick as your partners and who you go through this with is very, very, very important. And people must be doing this. The challenge that I see with investors out there, and I'll come back in real estate, but I'll make it more generic, is that people abdicate the responsibility of building their wealth to financial advisors, traditional financial advisors that want to go into traditional stocks. And guess what? Maybe before inflation that worked, but that doesn't work anymore.
Right.
That model is gone. People need to take back responsibility for building their own wealth for their own family and make their own decisions, and stop abdicating that out to some other financial advisor who's going to put you into something where he's betting against it that you're going to lose. I mean, that's part of the game. Part of the game is they put you into things and they bet against it, you're going to lose. Okay.
Yeah, that's just like we had Chris Miles on here a week or so ago, and his father, did the whole stock market, had a financial advisor. He retired, and then he met with him and said, how much runway do I have? And he was like, well, Dad, you've got to die in 5 years, because that's all you got. And it's like, and he's like, well, where did I go wrong? He's like, you didn't. You did everything that you were supposed to do, everything that you were told to do. Yeah. And that's because that model doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people need to look, I talk to a lot of people. I think the real issues out there today is, now we're in the aftermath of a multi-year pandemic that affects different people different ways, right? whether we're going into recession, depending on how you want to define a recession, people are in a recession, people are not in a recession the way we are. We have runaway inflation. Taxation is going off the rails. Mortgage rates are going up. Crypto has crashed over 50%, right? We're getting massive layoffs. We're getting scarcity in resources and supply chains. We're getting energy crises wherever we are. And then you got all this increase in violence and social stability. This all has to do with money. This all has to do with, survival of the fittest financially. Okay. And going into stocks. Look at where that's gotten us. Look at where we are, right? Doing it personally for yourself with real estate, with the right partners, and taking responsibility for yourself is what people have to do, which goes back to what I said before. I did it with my feet, and I picked up my family and moved them elsewhere, mitigating the risk of living up there because of taxation, a number of other reasons, but because of taxation as well. It's part of the risk mitigation, part of keeping what you've earned.
That's right. And, you also talked about being with the right partner. Bill put a statement in. I don't know if he's actually in the air now and he can't hear us anymore, but he wrote in the comments section, in the right real estate space, your investment can be both growth and defensive. And I think what people need to understand is there's different ways of protecting your wealth. You have a fund, we have a fund. When you put your money into a fund, you're with other people. You are mitigating your risk by being spread out of a number of loans or number of notes.
That's right.
If one goes bad, you're not, in the toilet. If you're one-on-one, you're in the toilet.
That's right. All your eggs are in one basket at that point, right? And that's why I'm a big advocate, especially, so that's diversification, right? You want to diversify your portfolio. Right, you want to diversify as best and as granularly as you can. Mm-hmm. And so your point there is that when someone invests in a fund, you're diversifying and spreading your risk across all the assets inside of that fund and not just one particular asset.
That's right.
So that's absolutely a good move to do for diversification.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean we talk about geography diversification, asset diversification. I mean, there's many different ways to diversify. Also want to point out there are many ways to over diversify.
Yes.
So, pick the things, diversification in the places and things that you know best, not just everything and trying to shoot a shotgun pattern,
Yeah.
And that's why the cookie cutter portfolio stuff doesn't work.
Right.
Because this is
it's a shotgun.
Yeah. It's personal. Everybody's in a different stage of life. Everybody has different dreams and aspirations. Everybody, are on a different path to have different types of successes in their life. Okay, when's the last time a financial advisor, other than coming over to pick up a check, actually sat and, talked with your children and wanted to know what they wanted to be when they grew up?
Right.
Get that intimate with your kids.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that happen.
Yeah, I neither.
Yeah, you're right. We are over our time limit.
Already?
We made it go by really fast.
Time flies when you're having a good conversation.
It's good stuff.
I just started slowing down my speech. I just started catching my breath and slowing down.
just got settled in.
We're going to self-destruct if we don't close it up.
Yeah.
Well, before we do wrap up, I do everyone out there, our question of the week. I want to go ahead and throw that out there. I guess we're not going to have a graphic for that.
There
That's
it
okay.
is.
How do you mitigate risk? We want to know. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to mitigate risk. We mentioned, diversification through assets, through geography. What do you do? So we would like to know that.
And they can go right online, and even the recording, you can respond to that question on this recording. We will see your answers on this. And Rob, you have been just a wealth of information. We'd love to have you back.
Oh, I love to come back. This was a lot of fun.
I told him already we're going to have a part 2, so that's going to have to happen.
All right, we'll have to have part 2. Okay, fine.
Twist your arm. Well, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the Real Estate Investor Show. We are Carolina Hard Money, Carolina Capital Management. If you are a rehabber or a real estate investor, you can go to carolinahardmoney.com and click on the Apply Now tab. If you are an investor and seeking outsized passive returns, you can click on our accredited investor tab. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, and join us next week. We'd love to have you.
Hey.